The 22nd of May marks the anniversary of what is arguably the most important Bitcoin transaction of all time, and the most significant moment in Bitcoin's history since its creation. So what happened? Well, a guy bought 2 pizzas. Let's talk about it. Let's set the scene. Bitcoin was a little over 1 year old, its mysterious creator Satoshi Nakamoto was still active in the community, and it was trading for less than 1 penny on the very first Bitcoin exchange that had launched just months earlier. It's needless to say that it was far too early for any shop or any pizzeria to have even considered accepting Bitcoin for payment. After all, nobody had even heard of it yet. So how did the pizza transaction work? On May 18th, early Bitcoin contributor Laszlo Haniec made a post on the Bitcoin Talk forum saying he'd be willing to pay 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas. With such a small number of users at the time, it took 4 days and a thread bump to find somebody who was both able and willing to accept the deal. Finally though, on the 22nd of May, Laszlo updated the thread to say he had successfully traded 10,000 Bitcoin for pizza, and posted some pictures of his meal, thanking somebody called Jerkos who had bought the pizzas for him. Jerkos was the online name of Jeremy Studevant, another early Bitcoiner who was actually living more than 3,500 kilometers away from Laszlo at the time, on the other side of the US. But he wasn't going to let geography get in the way of the purchase, and communicated with Laszlo on IRC to finalise the deal, before arranging a Papa John's delivery to his house. Jerkos was paid well for his assistance, even when accounting for Bitcoin's low price at the time. The 10,000 Bitcoin he received was worth about $42 then, while the pizzas cost just $25. The payment has only looked better since then as Bitcoin's price has increased. In fact, it was the rising price that finally made many other people pay attention to the purchase many months after the event. At the time, almost nobody noticed it or recognised its significance, with only 2 other users commenting on it, one of which was Bitcoin's second ever developer Marty Malmy. In November 2010, after a substantial increase in Bitcoin's price, one user added to the thread to ask what it was like eating a $2,600 pizza. Those kinds of comments would continue to be added in the months and years that followed, and somebody even created a Bitcoin Pizza Index to track the increasing value of those 10,000 Bitcoin. At their peak, they were worth more than $500 million. Jerkos sold those Bitcoin well before they became that valuable, letting them go after a 10x increase in price to cover some expenses while travelling. Meanwhile, Laszlo would go on to make more pizza transactions in 2010, spending around 100,000 Bitcoin in total. Many headlines and stories that you see about this effectively mock Laszlo for doing that, as if he actually spent billions of dollars on pizza, which is obviously incorrect. In its early days, Bitcoin was effectively a worthless novelty that you could mine at home, or you could request for free from Bitcoin faucets. In that context, it's easy to understand why Laszlo has no regrets about buying those pizzas. He says he's just happy he got some free meals for contributing to an open source project. In a piece for Bitcoin magazine, he said, "Usually hobbies are a time sink and money sink. In this case, my hobby bought me dinner." And Laszlo may have less reason to be regretful of his spending than just about any other Bitcoiner from that time period, as the Bitcoin he spent came easier to him than just about anybody else. That's because Laszlo was the first person to introduce GPU mining shortly before his pizza purchase, allowing him to 10x his hash power and mine thousands of Bitcoin per day, while everybody else was still using CPUs. Interestingly, Satoshi Nakamoto was unhappy with this development, emailing Laszlo to say, "A big attraction to new users is that anyone with a computer can generate some free coins. GPUs would prematurely limit the incentive to only those with high-end GPU hardware. It's inevitable that GPU computer clusters will eventually hog all the generated coins, but I won't hasten that day." On top of that, Laszlo was also responsible for bringing Bitcoin Core to macOS, so he's clearly an extremely important figure in Bitcoin's history from a technical perspective. But he's rarely remembered for that. Instead, the focus is always placed on his pizza purchase, largely because the idea of a multi-million-dollar pizza is great clickbait, but also because there is genuine significance to that transaction. Earlier, I mentioned that Bitcoin was purely a novelty in 2010. Laszlo has even said it was like monopoly money at the time. And that's why the pizza transaction meant so much. It was the first time anybody had exchanged anything real and genuinely valuable for Bitcoin. It was Bitcoin's 0 to 1 moment. It proved that Bitcoin had value beyond the pure speculation that had taken place up to that point, and it was Bitcoin's shaky first step on the road to becoming a widely accepted and respected money. A road that it continues along today. If it still doesn't seem significant, just think about how many other copycat cryptocurrencies have come along and failed to even make it to a pizza-style transaction. Virtually everything else has failed to make it that far, they have fallen before the first hurdle, despite coming into existence in what has arguably been a more favourable environment for it. And yet Bitcoin managed to do it when it was little more than a 1-year-old internet oddity. Once the pizza transaction had set a precedent and proved Bitcoin's viability as a medium of exchange, it wouldn't take too long for others to start using it in that way, particularly once darknet markets like the Silk Road took off. The popular perception of Bitcoin and ideas about how it should be used have evolved significantly since then, with focus shifting from Bitcoin's function as a medium of exchange to a store of value. But that doesn't mean that the pendulum won't swing back in that direction once Bitcoin is more established and stable, or that efforts to encourage Bitcoin for payments have faded away completely. Today, it's entirely obvious that the trade-offs required to keep blockchains secure and meaningfully decentralized means they can't directly support day-to-day payments like pizza purchases, and so many are looking to layer 2 scaling solutions to help with this. For Bitcoin, that comes in the form of the Lightning Network, a system of payment channels that allow for faster, cheaper, and more private transactions. On the 25th of February in 2018, in something of a symbolic move that showcases the future potential of Lightning and Bitcoin as a transactional money, Laszlo Hanic became the first person to buy pizza using the Lightning Network. This time, he paid just 649,000 satoshis for it, and I guess we'll have to wait and see if that becomes as ludicrously expensive or as significant as his original pizza purchase. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.